Hi, I'm Cecil Stokes, the director and producer of Surrender the Secret. Every week, I would sit with my monitor flipping back and forth between the different camera angles as the ladies shared their stories on camera. I would take notes of what I wanted to ask them in their individual interviews that would happen later that afternoon. But today, I get to be your tour guide in our behind-the-scenes episode. We'll hear stories from the crew, we'll meet the woman who wrote the book that our show uses, and you'll hear what the ladies are up to now that the series is complete. But first, take a look at what I had to put up with for 10 weeks. Anything that we've not talked about you want to share?
No, I'm good. My soul's been bared plenty. I'm good.
Try again. Take two.
No, I don't think so. Next question.
Pass.
I need a nap, like everybody said.
Next, I get to pass. I haven't passed on any questions, so that'll be my one that I pass on.
No, you hit all the points I didn't want to talk about.
As you always do.
Pass.
I kid. These women were the most amazing people I have ever worked with, and on a show like this, we bonded very quickly. It was incredible how we could go from moments of such intense emotion to cracking up when the camera stopped rolling. I believe this was because of the magnificent presence of God. We knew within the very first hour of shooting that He had handpicked every one of us, all of the ladies and each member of the crew.
This year, I had no idea I'd be part of something like this. I had no idea that anything would even work out or that you'd even be interested in somebody like me coming to work on a show with you.
When I was hiring crew, I wanted professionals who could become invisible when the ladies were sharing their stories. I wanted gentlemen who could treat them with the utmost respect. But one crew member came to us completely out of the blue. As a favor for a friend, I talked to a young lady who was recently out of school, and she told me that she wanted to change the face of Christian television. After speaking with Gwyneth for about an hour or so, I felt the peace of God tell me that she was supposed to be part of this production.
After I graduated from college, I didn't really know where I was going in life. And I have this dream of something that I want to do, but that was kind of, there's stepping stones to getting there. So after having a conversation with you, Cecil, about, yeah, you should come work on the show and it'll be great and you'll do some PA work and you'll learn some things, I thought that would be great. And I had really been praying for a long time for God to just be very specific. I mean, I was doing the whole like, give me a sign, write it in stone, send me a letter, have somebody stop me on the street and say, the Lord wants to tell you this. Like, I was on that level. And when you called me and you said, so I really feel like God thinks you should be here and wants you to be here and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And to me, at the time, that was what I needed to hear. And I just started bawling my eyes out. And I was like, Cecil, you made me cry. and I just felt peace. And so that whole trip down, it didn't matter what happened. It was just where it was supposed to be.
So we started day one of shooting with Vanessa driving to Jill's for the very first time. And you could palpably feel the anxiety as we shot Vanessa's interview in her car. After we finished that part of the shoot and began moving base to Jill's, I thought to myself, should I ride with Vanessa to help calm her down? But I heard God say, you aren't supposed to ride with Vanessa. Have Gwyneth ride with her.
And so we got in the car and immediately I just told her my story. I said, Vanessa, I've got to tell you this because I felt just free that I could actually just tell somebody. So she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you rode with me. And then we just kind of, you know, it was a great way to start the day.
Oh, how Gwyneth came into this was just a whole God thing. I mean, that was no mistake that she was chosen to work on this project and she was available. I mean, again, God orchestrated that whole situation.
When we started this process and found out that our production assistant, Gwyneth, she shared with us that she had had an abortion as well. You know, I already knew that God's hand was all over this, but that was just another indication that He was spreading His message of healing. I mean, just to bring one more person into it was fantastic.
During day one of shooting, we were on a break and Gwyneth shared her abortion story with all of the ladies. Remember how in episode 1, Jill handed out the carabiners to everyone so the women could lock arms and do this together? Kelly was only supposed to bring 5 carabiners to the shoot that day, But Jill had called ahead and said she felt like there were supposed to be 6, and that 6th one became Gwyneth's. God knew she was supposed to be here all along. And not only did that confirm for Gwyneth that she was right where she belonged, I think it helped all of the other ladies know too, this is exactly where they were supposed to be.
Gwyneth becoming part of this was all God. I mean, there's no question about it. You have to trust in his timing. And it was her time to grieve her child, just to walk through this with us. And the fact that she didn't even come here, she was gonna be behind the scenes helping out and not actually in the Bible study. And even though she wasn't on camera with us, she was still sitting off camera, going through it with us and feeling the emotions that we felt and grieving for her own child.
I was most definitely, most purposefully meant to be on this show and be a part of it. It didn't matter if I was setting up lights or if I was talking to the ladies or going to grab coffee. I was meant to be on this show. I was meant to be a part of it. It was as if God was like, this is something you cannot just walk past. This is something you cannot just ignore. And if you don't get to the heart of it now, then you're never gonna be completely whole.
After Gwyneth had spoken to us about the fact that she'd had an abortion, we were like, come on in, you are part of the sisterhood. We had a book for her, we had a journal for her, everything that the other women had, Gwyneth had, so that she could work along with us.
I am very different after being on this show. It brought me through the deepest trench and then out again, because there really was nowhere else to go. Once I got to that place of the thing that I was most ashamed of, and everybody knew, and my mother found out, all these people found out, because I just couldn't keep it inside anymore. And I'm thinking I'm gonna die, and then the next thing I know, I'm getting better, and I'm stronger, and I'm healthier, and I'm really accepting forgiveness, because there really was no other choice. It was either you just wallow in sorrows forever, or you finally accept truth, and you accept faith and forgiveness and grace, and you move on. And I chose that path, so that's what I really hope for other women too, that they choose that path.
Now you know how God brought Gwyneth to us and changed her life. And you've seen the women transform right before our very eyes over the last 9 episodes. But God was also working on the crew. Some of our stories when we return, as well as more from the ladies.
I can't believe what these women did. I mean, this was such an act of courage to appear on camera and tell these stories, and especially to a crew almost entirely composed of men. That had to be incredibly daunting. And I don't know where they got the courage to do it, but you can hear them talk about how they hope it serves as an example for others, and their altruism is very commendable.
In the very beginning, it was scary. Being, having the cameras and knowing that who knows how many people are going to be watching, and being a little insecure. Oh gosh, I need to be careful about what I say, or am I going to say the right thing? Is it going to come out the way I want it to come out, or is it going to come out differently? But it's been great. It got to a point where I didn't even, the cameras and everybody it seemed to disappear. As soon as we started, it just seemed like that all went away, and it was a lot more comfortable.
Man, I have thought about this a good deal, and the word courage has been thrown around a lot. And if people just take a moment to think about the thing they're most regretful for in life, the thing they're most ashamed of, like their deepest, darkest secrets, the things that you try as hard as you can to hide from other people. And just think about for a moment sharing that with strangers, putting that on camera. I mean, that terrifies me just in theory. And for these women to have the strength to do that, again, in an effort to help others, it's very commendable, very respectable, and I admire them.
Being part of this show has been one of the rare experiences of my career. I mean, the subject matter alone would make it really different. But I've worked on a lot of stuff with a lot of people, but you don't build relationships like I've built on this show. I feel like they're my friends, the cast, the crew, everybody. I feel like I've made a lot of friendships on this show. So it's a different feel than a normal job.
I think y'all are all handpicked by God to be here. You know, maybe none of you have ever had an experience with someone who had an abortion or, you know, been in the situation at all. But I think maybe we opened some eyes to how hurt and how damaged a woman is from an abortion and how long she can carry that. And, you know, there were times we didn't even know you were there. They made it comfortable. I was never embarrassed. I was never ashamed. There was no judgment on us. And I can only hope that in some way we've touched their lives, because they certainly have ours, just being who they are, just genuinely faithful, kind people. You guys are great. And I know God put them here for a reason.
Day one of shooting was exhausting, probably emotionally even more so than physically. And when I got home, I just needed complete silence. I couldn't turn the TV on. I didn't want to turn the radio on. I just laid down on the couch and tried to process the stories that I had heard that day and everything that had happened. And I remembered a conversation we had that day when the women read the verse that God knits us together in the womb. And at that moment, I felt God say to me, when I needed you together in the womb, this is one of the days that I created you for. And I felt like I was exactly in the center of His will, and I was fulfilling my purpose that He had created me for. And I knew this show was going to become very special. And as I lay there sobbing, I realized that these 5 women had trusted me with their hearts and with the story they had never shared with anyone. And at that moment, I knew that I had 5 new heroes.
First, I would want to tell the other women, thank you. I know I've said it over and over, that they are bold and courageous, like people I have never seen before. This was a soul-bearing exercise that was done on a very public scale. And I have the utmost respect for all of them. And they now each occupy a place in my heart. And they will be with me forever.
When Surrender the Secret returns, you'll hear more on how this Bible study changed the ladies. And still to come, you'll meet the woman who wrote the book we use in the show.
I love every single one of these women. When I heard their stories, I'd be sitting over in the corner, screaming, crying, laughing, smiling, every emotion with them. And even if I wasn't right there beside them on the couch holding their hand, I was in spirit holding their hand, because it was so powerful that they came on a show and they had no fear to say, this is what I did. I'm not gonna hide it. This is who I am. But you know what? It's worth saying for that one woman out there who's sitting in her house with that secret and she hasn't told anybody, and she's scared and she feels ashamed and she's going, oh my gosh, they did the same thing. And in a way, she's connected to them through that. And she can say they're free. And they're so free that they're not afraid what I think of them. They're not afraid what the world thinks of them. I think that's incredible. I think that's powerful. So I love every single one of the women on this show.
I think I've changed. I've let go. I've let go of the hurt and the regret. I've learned to forgive. I've forgiven people that I didn't think I was going to be able to forgive. I feel lighter. I feel a huge weight has come off. The darkness is gone. And there's just this rejoiceful feeling. And I can't wait to see what's in store for me next.
The first time I took this Bible study, I did find get healing and peace, but really, I think God wasn't finished with me yet, even though I didn't know that, and it's not like I thought like, okay, everything's okay and I can go on with my life now and not worry about it anymore. But coming into this Bible study and going through it again, I realized I needed additional healing. So God knew what He was doing, giving me the opportunity to, for additional healing, giving me the opportunity. It was up to me to choose it.
I think I'm different through the Bible study. I feel more transparent, more open to a lot of things, but being real. I don't feel like there's this burden that I was not aware of truly, a freedom, free, probably the best way to describe.
My relationship with God has totally changed from this study. And I would say it's half and half. It's part of the study and what I've continued to learn, but it's the women. It hit me that I now have a group of women that are as close to me as my own family. They know all of my secrets, and I can come to them about anything and know that I will be received in love, and I will be prayed upon, and I will be lifted up. And that's changed my entire perspective on my walk.
Oh my gosh, did my relationship with God change during these last weeks? Yes, absolutely. When I was first asked to facilitate for this group, I knew very quickly that this was not going to be like a regular group that I have done, because this has the potential to be a lot larger. And I felt a tremendous responsibility. And the only way that I could handle it was on my knees, because it needed to be God and not me. And so I have constantly been seeking Him, and He has constantly been here. I have gotten a much deeper understanding of His Word and a greater hunger for Him in my life.
That just opened up something that made me feel free to be transparent in my church, to be transparent with people, because I really felt like at the end of the day, when I could just say it aloud and not be ashamed of it, that I could help other people do that, and that I could go on and I could really be free and really know who I am. Because I think some of the things we were talking about was, once you shine light on something that you've done in your life that is so insane, you're no longer afraid of that thing in itself, because you can see the foundation underneath. And who I am is not what I did. Who I am is the fact that I was created, And that's what I kind of look at now. Nobody can make me feel shamed or condemned. It's done.
Coming up next, the women sit down with Pat Layton, the author of Surrendering the Secret.
believe it that this is our last time together. In some ways it's been really long, but in some ways it's been very short. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Yep.
Well, I am so excited that we have Pat Layton, the author of the study, with us today, and we get to just pepper you with questions, so I hope you're okay with that.
Pepper away.
Who wants to start?
I would love to start, because I've been wondering this for a long time. I've been through the study a couple of times now, and every time I go through it, something new comes up for me. Creator of the study, and I'm sure you've been through the study a number of times, do you still have recollections and things that come back to you from the past through this, or have you kind of come full circle?
Yes, the answer is yes, I have come full circle, and yes, I have recollections. You know, certainly for the first few years that I did Surrendering the Secret, when I first wrote the study and then started leading women through the group, many stories would come up, and I think, oh my gosh, that happened to me, or that happened to me, or I remember that smell or that sound. So I had a lot of healing that went on those first few years. Now it's a healed sort of memory. The anniversary of my abortion was September 17th, 1976, and I carry a little card around in my wallet. And so I just went through some healing individually with someone. It was just, you know, those memories of especially when you know the exact date of your abortion. And so, you know, but the healing is complete. So when I think of those things, it is from a healed, grateful, amazed at God's side, you know, of perspective. So you do get complete healing. I mean, God does, yes. Eventually, every memory eventually will be a sweet memory or just a reminder of God's goodness and how you are on the other side. So,
I know one of the questions that I've had, I've been a certified leader for a while now, and I know that there is a network throughout the country. And so, do you know off the top of your head how many leaders you have or throughout the country, and how many states is this study in?
Off the top of my head, 1,211 leaders.
Okay, all right, thank you, Lord.
Yes, I just did a training in Atlanta last week, and that was the most recent one we've had. So we have 1,211 certified leaders around the nation now, and we've covered all but about 5 states. Oh, so next year I have a goal of the Midwest and the Northeast. Those are the areas that we're, you know, the lightest in with trained leaders.
I have a question about about the study itself, because this is my first time going through the study, and it was fantastic, you know, now that I'm through it at the other end. Although I guess I have to do it a few more times. Like, all right, I thought I was done, but
Best thing I ever did.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it just seems that the several weeks going through the study that, you know, each step was very methodical and necessary, you know, like there's nothing missing from this. Like, how did you, doing the study, how'd you go, okay, this is what week 1 should be, this is what week 2?
It's really, truly such a miracle. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, long time ago, the 60s, came up with this pattern of healing for grief and loss. And so this counselor led me through this pattern of healing that had been established all these years ago, and just applied scripture and God's truth to each one of the steps. So, you know, God just put it together. And isn't it a miracle? I mean, the way you walk through it now is just incredible.
How do you counter critics who will say there's no trauma related to this? You know, we are sold that bill of goods that it's a procedure, it's no big deal, you can just go on about your life. Well, that's not really true. So,
you know, Jill, I don't try to counter that. The reality of my story, the reality of your story, I really don't have to fight them or their opinion. All I have to do is ask every other woman.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because 43%, half of our sisters, friends, neighbors, girlfriends have had past abortions. And you ask any one of them at a coffee table, have you ever had an abortion? And they're gonna break down. So then tell me there's no post-abortion trauma.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I just really don't even go there. My calling that I feel like God's called us to do is share the word of our testimony.
Right.
And others will come forward as a result of our testimony, and then they can write whatever article they want.
Have you found with your experience it to be common or not to come across women who don't remember a lot? Yes. Because I struggle with that. But I feel like I've received so much healing, but there's some things I still don't recall, and I just wonder, I think it's just so traumatic that just, and I mean, it's been years ago, but I mean, and things, but being in the group has resurrected some memories, but
as you listen to other stories, right?
Yeah, and so
there's some things.
Common?
Yes, I think it is. I mean, part of the grief process is denial. You've talked about breaking denial in the group, and I think we work really hard at that as women for a lot of things that have happened in our past and in our lives that break our hearts, and we'd rather not think about or remember. And you know, when you press an abortion so far down, and there are so many horrible things to remember. I mean, I can even tell you girls the stories that I've heard about abortions. I mean, there's just a lot of trauma in there. So God, in His own time, His own way, brings up, you know, what we need to remember. And the more we're reaching out to others, the more He kind of shines little lights on little pieces at a time. He knows how much we can handle, I think, at any, you know, through the process.
And that's what, with this whole program and bringing Surrender the Secret to a wider audience, is what we're doing. And Pat, cannot thank you enough for coming and spending the day with us today. And ladies, thank you for your obedience and your boldness and your transparency. This has been an incredible journey, and I can't imagine having done it with a more wonderful group of women.
We've had a team of women praying every time you get together all across the nation, as you've been, you know, sharing and so now you're sisters. Sisters.
And thank you, Jill,
Yes.
for being who you are and being willing to be brave and take on this assignment ordained by God, I believe.
In a lot of ways, Pat saved my life. You know, because Pat was willing to reach out to other women and to help them through their pain, to help me through my pain. You know, it changed the course of my life, and I constantly thank God for her, because without her and her obedience, I would not have the relationship that I have with Christ. I would not have the relationship that I have with my husband or my children. Because when you harbor a secret for so long, you keep a part of yourself from the people that you love the most. You don't want to be hurt. And when you're able to let that go, you're able to let people in. And I know that, again, through Pat being obedient to God's call on her life, she has helped change the lives of thousands, me being just one of them.
When Surrender the Secret returns, the women remember special moments from this season.
For me, there has been one particular time that's going to stay with me probably forever, and that's when I think that's at the point where I could not read the letter to my child without being overwhelmed with emotion. I mean, that's something I'll never forget. That's a definite moment that I won't forget. It was like a life change, or it was probably just soul healing, more soul healing. But I needed to do that. I mean, I had no control over that. That's the thing. It just, it just happened. And I believe that it was, that's what God was waiting for. So that moment, that time, it will stay with me. I won't ever forget it.
Some of my favorite memories of the Bible study are when all the ladies share, really, sharing their heart allowed me to want to share because I have been through it before. Courtney especially. And just, after the cameras are gone and Jill will text and follow through, with how I feel, especially in the beginning. She wanted to make sure that I was okay and I'm coming back. So just the relationships would be, and their stories that they tell.
As a group, these women, they're like my sisters now. I don't think you can share the things that we've shared and not have a connection. I love them all. I'd do anything for them. We've all grown together, we've cried together, we've laughed, we've made fun of each other together. We can go from laughing to crying in about 30 seconds. And I just feel comfortable around them. I feel like we're so connected, and I think we will be for years to come. I couldn't have asked for any better people to do this with, as hard as it is. They're so supportive and wear their heart on their sleeve, and we do anything for each other. I know I would for them. I just love them.
One of the more moving moments for me, which I think it will always be for me, is the memorial service, because it brings home everything that we've been talking about over the past weeks, and it gives a tangible it's a tangible opportunity for us to celebrate our children. And for the women that have been in this study, when we brought our flowers, it's just been really interesting seeing the healing that has occurred for these women as they perform or are involved in this ceremony.
Episode 7, the memorial service, was my favorite, but it was probably also the most emotional one for us to shoot. As I was driving to Jill's that morning, I heard God say that we would be shooting something that day that would usher in healing and hope for women that we would never even meet this side of heaven. On that day, we had our 5 women on camera as usual, and we had a crew of 5. And when you watch that show, you'll see 5 women crying, but you hear 10 people crying. It moved all of us so much. Everyone in the room was in tears. And since this is called the behind the scenes show, here's one other little note for you. When you see that beautiful cross and the flowers that represented all the children who were lost and the candles, note there weren't only 5 candles, there were 6.
It's funny, I've shot news for almost 2 decades, and I've seen things that would curdle your blood. And this was probably emotionally the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because their stories that they tell and the pain that comes out as they're telling the story is just so strong and so poignant that you just want to stop and go and give them a hug and tell them it's going to be all right, and you can't. And pretty soon it was just, as soon as they would start telling their stories, I always took my cue from Jill. It was kind of a Pavlovian response that as soon as she would start to well up, I would start to well up. And it would be, they would be talking and telling these stories of incredible emotional impact. And I'd be sitting there blinking like this just so I could try to keep being able to see through the viewfinder and not sit there with tears running down my face. And then I'd look over at the rest of the crew, and Cecil, the producer, would be over there going like this by the monitor, trying not to cry. And this was probably the toughest thing I've ever had to do.
When Surrender the Secret returns, a few final stories from the ladies, and I'll share what the women have been up to in the 6 months since we wrapped. We knew from the beginning that each of us was supposed to be here, the ladies and the crew. But God continually sent us signs letting us know we were right where we belonged and that He had a plan for all of us. Though Vanessa had never publicly shared her abortion story, in the middle of shooting Surrender the Secret, she was asked to play the lead role in a film about a post-abortive woman. Here are a few clips from Erin.
Happy birthday to the birthday boy. Good morning to the birthday boy. The birthday boy won't wake up on his own birthday. I guess I'm just gonna have to open up all his presents without him.
I'm up.
I thought that might wake you up. Okay, blow him out. Awesome. Okay, how about some chocolate chip pancakes?
With whipped cream?
I think I can make that happen.
Then what?
Then we can do whatever you want.
I want to find a rocket ship.
Nice. And you know where we can do that?
Where?
At the park.
Aaron? Aaron? Aaron! Aaron!
Hey.
I can't find him. He's gone.
What happened?
He was on the swing, and I looked away for 1 second, and when I looked back, he was gone.
Who?
Aaron, our son.
Honey, we don't have a son.
What?
We decided not to have it.
That's not possible.
Look, we have this conversation every year. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was today.
His name is Aaron.
When Vanessa got the call from the American Family Association to play the lead in Erin, she asked them how they found her. Neither her agent nor her manager had submitted her. The producer said that somehow her headshot just ended up on their desk. I think I know how her headshot ended up on their desk, in the same way that all of us came to do this show together. It was by the divine hand of God.
I feel like we're all kindred spirits. I feel a real soul connection with them. And they're all wonderful women. When we're all different, but then we're all the same because we have the experience to, that connects us and bonds us. But yeah, I can't imagine doing it with any, being involved with this, with any other women. It just, God brought us all together. And it feels like that. It's always felt good and comfortable.
This adventure is beyond anything I could have ever expected it to be. We really, when we were asked to do this, we thought we were coming in and doing the Bible study on camera and had no idea of our interviews, had no idea of how the studies would go, how it was going to affect the different women in the group. So, no, it's not what I expected, and thank God for it, because it's bigger and better than anything I could have ever imagined.
The message that I want people to take away from this is first from John 3:11. Jesus said, "I tell you the truth. We speak of what we know and we testify to what we have seen. I wrote this morning. We speak of what we know, of our own experiences. We speak of the horror and the heartbreak of abortion, but more importantly, we speak of the loving kindness of our Lord and Savior. Revelation 12:11 says, "They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony." This has been the testimony of millions of women, and we won't be silent anymore. God loves us, and if you made this choice, He loves you too.
So we wrapped the show about 6 months ago, and we've been getting together and watching each episode before it airs. We've really become like a family. I don't think a day goes by that we don't text each other a prayer request or a praise about what God is doing through the show or where He's taking us next. Jill, our fearless leader, now volunteers at a local crisis pregnancy center. She has taken the truth into the streets and is helping women when they face life-altering decisions. Kelly and Courtney have teamed up and are co-leading the Surrender the Secret Bible study together. They're spreading hope and healing to a new group of women, and I can tell you this is only the first of many groups they will lead. Courtney's parents have been watching the show, and beautiful restoration is happening in that family. Her parents have realized their role in aborting their first grandson, but together they are all working through mutual heartbreak. Courtney says more healing is happening in that family than she could have ever imagined. Jane did just as she predicted in episode 8 and is helping many children. She's become a lunch buddy at an elementary school, and she tutors the kids in the afternoon. So now there are lots of sons and daughters receiving Jane's love. Vanessa co-wrote and acted in her own Christian film about the story of Paul, and is preparing to go through the Surrender the Secret Bible study one more time without the cameras before she leads a group at her own church. There's just one more behind-the-scenes story I have to share. You remember many episodes ago when Vanessa received a call from one of her friends who had an abortion scheduled on that day. We all prayed for her and we spoke truth to her. And after weeks of touch and go, she decided to keep that child. All the ladies got together and threw her a baby shower. And last month, that beautiful little boy was born. I know that at least once in every single episode, the ladies would say, "If I could only save just one." Well, now I know that they have. And I would be remiss if I did not thank our incredible crew and these beautiful, amazing women for what they have done. But first and foremost, we thank God, our Savior and Creator, who takes the broken pieces of our lives and makes us whole again. Thank you all so much for watching. This is only the beginning.